So, thank
And
you.
welcome, everybody. I just wanted to thank you all for being here tonight. And today it is our first 2025 411 session from Second District PTA. The topic we'll be covering today is the importance of school site councils, how PTAs and PTSAs can be involved, and also sharing a new stream of funding that is available to our SFUSD public schools and charter schools. Tonight with us, we have presenting Rex Ridgway. You're probably familiar with Rex. You've probably seen him in some capacity. He is our second district vice president. He is also a member of the Lincoln High School School Site Council. He was previously the PTSA president there. He's an education advocate, a volunteer extraordinaire, and that's just naming a handful of the probably dozen or more roles that Rex plays in San Francisco wide committees and different advocacy groups. If you haven't heard of Rex before, you are in for a treat. He is excellent with school site council information. And so I'm going to turn it over to Rex now. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Tina, and welcome everyone. I'm familiar with everyone except, let's see, is it pronounced Javonda? I just want to make sure I pronounced the name correctly.
Hi, it's Javidan, but everyone calls me Java.
Okay, okay. In that case, that's easier for me to say Java. And welcome, Java. Thank you. And first rule of any public presentation is know your audience. You are president, a board member. What is your role and what school are you at?
So I'm PTA president this year at Longfellow Elementary School. Yes.
Okay, and this is your first year, third year. What? How long
it's my first year as a president.
Okay, of the PTSA, right?
Not the PTSA, just the PTA.
The PTA. I'm sorry. We say
Yeah.
PTA or PTSA. That's for student, Parent Teacher Association. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And are you involved or at all with your school's school site council?
So I was involved briefly. I was just at the meetings last year, but
Okay.
this year I didn't get a chance to be in a site school SSC. I haven't been in their meetings yet.
Okay. I'm just can you everyone hear me? Okay. Well, very good. So let's get started, and hopefully others will come through. So what is a school site council? Okay, the school site council is an advisory body within a school site. It's composed of parents, teachers, school staff, also students. As a way of background, I've been involved in every school site since 2012, when I first volunteered. When my granddaughter, who's now a senior at Lincoln, when she started in kindergarten, I started volunteering. And I was chair of her elementary school's school site council, as well as her middle school school site council. And I'm co-chair of Lincoln High's school site council. So I have a lot of experience with school site councils, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the main purpose of the school site council is the academic and operating success of the school by being involved in planning and the resource allocation. When I first started, I asked everybody at my granddaughter's elementary school, well, where should I start? I'm a full-time volunteer. I want to get involved. In every teacher that I talked with, including the secretary, said, Rex, get on the school site council. And of course, at that time, I had no idea what it was. And they said, Rex, that's where the money's at. The PTA doesn't vote on the operating budget of the school, how the schools use its money, pays for the staff and everybody. You have a voice and an influence as a school site council member, and that's why I jumped in first. And then later on, I got into the PTSA. Okay, the school site council typically provides input, and it's governed by the bylaws. So, just like the PTSA, it has bylaws. Matter of fact, I was last year's PTSA president in Lincoln, and one of the first things we did at the beginning of the year, we went through the bylaws and made amendments and what have you. So. Where I would like anyone who is in a PTS school site council, you start with the bylaws. They address the potential problems, define the responsibilities, processes, and policies, and you and basically it's your anchor. In other words, if there's a question, you always revert to the bylaws, just like Congress should always revert to the Constitution. Sometimes they don't, but it's the governing body, just like the city of San Francisco is governed by a charter. So Mayor Breed, now Daniel Lurie, and the Board of Supervisors, they have to follow the charter. Just a nice name for their own bylaws. Next slide, please. Okay, so school site councils are governed by all the actions, norms, and ethos of the council and its members. The bylaws establishes the objectives for the actions that the school site council takes regarding its advice to the school site admin. So in your travels through your schools, you always hear the word admin. That's just a short five-letter word for administration. So when you hear the word admin, immediately you should see the face of your principal, and if you have vice principals or assistant principals. At Lincoln, we have 3 assistant principals and a principal. So when someone says to me, admin says this, or admin says this, or they need this report, I see those 4 people in my brain. That's your admin. They run the school, okay? And the school site council advises them on planning, budgeting, implementation, evaluation. This is a very important document called the School Plan for Student Success. You may see it as a single plan for student outcome, but it's called a SSFA. It is required by law, in California Ed Code 52853 governs that. Now, let's stay with the slide for a second. The PTSA is not required by law, but there's 2 committees that are required in a school district or in a school. The school district Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, that's required by law, but at each school site, you must, capital M-U-S-T, you must have a school site council, period. Next slide, please. Okay, so now in our bylaws, what I did, I just took our bylaws and just took the articles. So each one of these to the left are just articles. And this is to give you a flavor of how the bylaw should just roll out, if you will. First of all, the objectives, Article 2, objectives, Article 1, okay? And so School Site Council follows the state guidelines and policies of the school district to advise the school site, in our case, Lincoln High School, in your case, Longfellow, what have you, on planning, budgeting, implementation, et cetera. It also the study and refine the student success plan, school plan for student outcome or student achievement, and support the role of parents and caregivers. The second article, I'm just going through what Lincoln has, is rolling out the articles. In our articles, we talk about the membership and the election. The school site council will consist of a minimum of 12 members. Now, at an elementary school, the minimum is 10 members. At a high school, because it's larger, in the case of Lincoln, we have just over 2,000 kids. Large high school, we must have 12 members, which will include a broad representation of parents, caregivers, community members, students, staff members, including the site's administration, again, admin, and the election of the members for a 2-year term. Now, I'm in my 2nd year as a board member, so I'm terming out after this year with the school site council. I was chair last year. I'm co-chair this year, and I'm terming out. Now, you notice students. At Lincoln, we have 4 students who are on our school site council. Last year, we had 6. And that's pretty good, because at that age, they want to get involved in government. It looks good on their college applications to be involved in civic things and extracurriculars. Okay, officers. And by the way, Java, stop me, speak up if you just want to chime in on anything that is a buzzword for you or something that you want to talk about until I look. If it's only 4 of us, so if it's just going to be us for the next hour or so, please feel free to go back and forth. I like those type of conversations, so don't be shy.
Okay, so far so good.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. Okay, officers, just like your PTSA has officers, school site council has officers. In your bylaws, you talk about the election and term of the office. It's by a majority vote. You spell out the duties, and in the school site council, you have to have 3. A chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. Notice you don't have to have a treasurer, because the school site council does not deal with the money as far as a PTA raises funds and has its own bank account. A PTSA must have a treasurer, a secretary, and a president. okay, as you know. But a school site council does not have to have a treasurer because the money comes from the district, and it doesn't come in the form of money, it comes in the form of a budget, and we dice it up. So you must have a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. That's a must. Okay, committees as needed. Just like a PTSA can have a nominating committee, it can have a fundraising committee, it can have a membership subcommittee. Your school site council can also have committees as needed. The form committees to carry on like the council's work. We may have a special committee for nominating for next year's members. Spending money, like we'll get to this evening. That's the Student Success Fund. So there's, again, we call committees, I like to call them subcommittees, because you have the council, then you have subcommittees. Next slide. And anybody else jump in as well. Okay, duties of the school site council members. This is another article. So again, all these headings are articles. You can have Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4. So this will be an article. From Lincoln High Schools, we have an article called Duties of School Site Council Members. And in that wordage, we covered things like the attending of the meetings, accepting of committee officers and members when elected and appointed, activity, participant in workshops and training sessions, review and approval of budgets and school plans with attention to the goals and objectives of the SESPA. Meetings, the regular meetings, notice of meetings, emergency meetings, openness of meetings to the community, order of meetings, and public comments. You have to have a quorum. And in our case at Lincoln, here's one little thing. There's a difference between a PTSA and a school site council. A school site council is mandated by state law. It is also under what is called the Brown Act. So when you have a school site council meeting, you have to post the agenda 72 hours before the meeting. So if the meeting is on a Wednesday, it must be posted by 12 o'clock, 72 hours, that would be Friday, okay, or Saturday. Anyway, go back 72 hours. And you must do that, just like when the school site, when the Board of Education has their Tuesday meetings, usually on Tuesdays, they have to post their agenda to the public. Anybody on planet Earth should be able to look at the minutes, open documents that are attached, agenda rather, and the open documents are attached that will be covered. That's called the Brown Act. The school site councils also have to follow the Brown Act by posting its agenda 72 hours before the meeting actually takes place. Any questions? Okay, next slide. Okay, next slide. Some of these slides I don't need to park on. Okay, next slide, keep going, next one.
Sorry, Rex, it clicked on the actual link that was in the slide. These slides are from SFUSD's presentation about school site councils.
Right. These slides were presented to the School Site Summit twice a year. The San Francisco Unified School District has a school site summit where all the school site officers of every school and invited guests show up, and it's a whole day. And the one slide we're going to just go through the ones. I'll stay on the ones I want to speak on. This was an actual presentation by Maria Sue and her lieutenants to the audience, and then we went in the breakout room. So this is current. Okay, next slide. I don't want to go too far. This next slide, please. Stop. Okay. Ed Code 4601 and Board Policy 1235. Okay. Sacramento runs public schools. It has its own document, and in that document is called the Ed Code, the California Education Code, or we call it EDC. And so Section 6401 requires that California schools requires the establishment of a school site council. Why? Because schools get 85% of their money from the state, plus other federal funds, okay? The other 15 to 10% comes from gifts, grants, or what have you, but the majority of the bulk of money that pays the teachers are based on what is called the average daily attendance, okay? That average daily attendance is calculated daily. It's daily. And if you go in the parent view of your kid, like I do with my granddaughter all the time, I can see her attendance. I know she's at school because I just know, but when I look at the at the calendar, I see that she's there. Okay, every single kid that fogs a mirror that's enrolled, the state of California bases your school's budget at Longfellow, my school budget, everybody else, wherever your school's at, based on the average daily attendance. And here's a fun fact: next Wednesday, there's no school. Anybody want to tell me why? What are we celebrating? Anybody?
Lunar New Year.
Lunar New Year.
Lunar New Year, right. But back in the day, about 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, Lunar New Year is celebrated by Asian families, mostly Chinese, but also families in Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. And what happened was when all the Asian families kept their kids home to celebrate Chinese Lunar New Year, they didn't care if school was in or not. Well, what happened? That day, when half the kids showed up, California dinged San Francisco Unified School District with half the money for that day, right? Because it's based on the daily attendance, okay? And so what happened was that the Board of Education at that time said, we can't win this, so we're going to vote to make Lunar New Year a school holiday. So nobody shows up, right? And so therefore, the state of California can't penalize half of the kids absent because they're on school that day. This is a little fun fact of how important we rely on funds from the state. Okay.
Rex, may
yeah.
I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
This is Liz. So you're saying that change then allowed us to get funding because in the past there were so many kids that were
okay, right.
absentee,
Actually,
right?
That's exactly right. But let's reword it. It allowed us to not lose funding.
Okay.
Like Martin Luther King holiday was Monday. There's no funds plus or minus on the balance sheet. It's just a day like a Sunday.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So Lunar New Year was never an official holiday until we kept getting penalized for only half the kids showed up.
Right.
So the Board of Education said, we got to make this a holiday.
I see. And it jumps between January, February, just depending on the
day.
That it
flows.
yeah.
Exactly. It's not like Monday, every month, the third Monday is always Martin Luther King or Labor Day. Certain things always falls on it. But this one, wherever the day is, that's the day it falls on. I think last year was on a Friday. I could be wrong. I had to check the calendar. But yeah, it floats. So but whatever that day officially is, Lunar New Year, that's the day kids don't have to show.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, great question. Okay, back to the slide. So, that's where we are. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the school districts shall ensure that the school site councils, that's what we're talking about tonight, have a developed and approved plan to be known as the single plan for pupil achievement. I've always called it school plan for student achievement, but that's just me. But anyway, that's required by board policy 1235. What is board policy? That's the San Francisco Unified District's board policy. So we have our own board norms that we follow. And then of course, it's governed by the umbrella from Sacramento, which is the state education code. Next, please. Okay. What is the purpose? I think we covered this, but it's always good to just make sure we didn't miss anything. The school site council's job of the group of elected members, the responsibility is to develop, monitor, evaluate the effectiveness of the school's single plan for student achievement. Now, a lot of people don't know this. They just think, we look at the budget and we approve it, and if we got enough janitors and liaisons and teachers, we're good. But that's not what goes back to Sacramento. Let me walk you got through what's going to happen next month. Next month, every school is going to get a preliminary budget. This is called $1 million. They're going to get $1 million, and inside that $1 million, 555 Franklin, which is the headquarters downtown, is going to tell Lincoln and Galileo and APG and Eddie how much is going to be specifically protected for teachers. Okay, because the teachers have to be paid, right? And that's called core staffing. And then it will tell us that we have leverage or flexibility on the other things that we can spend the money on. But when we send in the final, every school, that's not us, every school, lower high school, everybody, Sally Burton, Thurgood Marshall, when they send in their final budget, it has to be accompanied. It has to be accompanied by a document called Single Plan for Student Success, SSFA. And in that document, that's what really takes all the work. It's not really the budget because the numbers are pretty clear and there are line items that we can kind of go through that. But we have to tell 555 Franklin and by extension Sacramento how our school building, in our case Lincoln, is going to deal with absenteeism, low performance scores for certain focal groups, homeless. We have a few people, kids at Lincoln that are homeless, foster care, SPED, AP. What kids are taking AP classes and dual enrollment. We have to basically map out for 555 Franklin how the money they give us is going to make for outstanding achievement across all schools, our SPED kids and our high performers that are going to Harvard. And that takes time. And it was kind of interesting. Little fun fact again. Last year, a couple of our school site council members, two teachers, I won't name their names, but two teachers were a little bit frustrated because admin did not do a first dive into the CESPA document and just kind of like blew off the dust and said, well, here's the CESPA this year. And they got upset because they know we have to really be fair of how we're going to use that money. Now, I was really proud of the teachers that spoke up and clapped back, as the kids say, against the principal who really, just kind of like, okay, well, this is how it's always been. But not to say that was bad of her. It's just that, sometimes you get you get comfortable. And it was really important for us at Lincoln because we were given our 6-year accreditation. Okay, for high schools, as you know, when you leave a high school and you go to college, the colleges want to know that you come from a high school that's accredited. Can that high school give a diploma? And so every 6 years, Lincoln gets an assessment. And we had 6 people fly in from all over and spend a whole week at Lincoln. I'll just say they slept there. And they went through everything to make sure Lincoln, when they say this is your diploma, you have a credentialed school given a diploma. And so that came out last year at the same time that we were going through our CESPA. Little fun fact, but it gets real serious. Any questions? Okay, next slide. I'm not seeing my slides on my screen.
Oh, sorry, Rex. I was trying to join and I was just logged off to make sure that they could join. Let me just get the slides back up again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The last slide we saw was the SPSA.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the next one. Okay. Is that the next one? Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Here we go. So now you notice on this slide, everyone, the top of the slide says the composition of elementary school. Okay. So the number of required members are 10 or more. That's the requirement. Now, depending on the school, you may not even get 3. And I'll give you a fun fact. When I was chair of our school site council at MLK Middle School, we had very poor attendance, and we did not have the minimum. I beg you. I'm sorry, not MLK. El Dorado. We did not have the minimum 10 members required by law, but life goes on, and if you don't have the minimum number of members that make up of school site council, you still have it because you have to have it by law. The money doesn't go away. Somebody has to sign off and look at the budget and tell Maria Sue, who's our new superintendent, how we're going to spend the money. So you may have a school site council made up of 3 people. I hope not, but sometimes that happens when you don't have a lot of parent participation, which is really, really sad when that happens. At any rate, okay. So with an elementary school, we have the parent member, we have a community member, and it's interesting here, proof is required because the community member has to be within a specific school boundary. It can't be someone living, in Richmond and wants to be on a school site council in a Bayview school. Okay, so you got to be a community member. And on an annual basis, parents designate by vote whether to assign their parent member seats on the council to be eligible community members. So that's a nice pie graph. You got your principal. Principal is always just like your PTSA. The principal head is the main person of your PTSA, even though she doesn't run it. The the president or the chair of the PTSA is the one who runs the PTSA. Matter of fact, PTA or PTSA is parent, not principal, right? Parent Teacher Association or whatever, parent teacher. And so the principal runs it because it's her building. So she's there, okay? And of course, with a school site council, she's more involved because she has to sign off on the budget. You have teachers, okay, 3. You have a school staff. That could be a nurse, it could be a para, it could be another staff. In our case at Lincoln, our office secretary is one of our members of our school site council, as an example. And our nurse, we have our nurse, Sarah Chalk, she's on our school site council. And then you have the parents, legal guardians, and community members. Any questions? Next slide. Now, the next slide is a little bit different, but it still talks about the composite. And here we are with a high school, secondary. Okay, so in case Lincoln looks just like this, except yes, we have a principal, and we have all 3 of our assistant principals on our school site. Students, we have 4 this year. Last year, we had 6 students on our school site council. Teachers, this year we have 6 teachers. And other school staff at Lincoln, our secretary and nurse are on our school site council. And of course, we have parents. Number of parents, we have 1, 2, 3. I'm a grandparent, but you can count me. Let's see, Kim, Josephine, that's 3. We have 4 parents on Lincoln's school site council. And according to the California Ed Code, again, section 33133, at the middle school level, a school site may, but is not required to include student representatives. Any questions? That's pretty cut and dry. Okay, next. Okay, the roles, I think, let's see if we can touch anything. I don't have to repeat myself. Fellow parents, community. Okay, one thing about the school site council, and the reason I always get really hyped up and really enthusiastic about it is because unlike the PTSA or the PTA, the school site council votes on how the money is spent and can stop some nonsense. I'll give you an example. Another fun fact. When I started at El Dorado Elementary School, the principal there at that time in 2012 started also as the new principal. And she took $20,000 of the budget given to El Dorado Elementary School to pay an outside consultant to help her learn how to run a school. Of course, I was new at that year, kind of shy. I didn't know, which way the wind blew, but I went back and I started thinking about that. And I started making calls, and I started realizing the power of the school site council and its members. So the next year, 2013, when the same principal wanted to take $20,000 and pay this same consultant to help advise her on how to run a school, we voted it down. Okay, by that time, if you're a principal, you've already been an assistant principal somewhere, right? You've been a teacher somewhere. You've been inside of a school building. This is ridiculous. So we voted down the use of the $20,000 for this who knows who and used it for our kids. So again, PTA can't do that. School site council can, because we're talking about the school's budget. Okay. Also, let's see, bullet number 4, obtain input from advisory committees, ELAC, that's English learners, play a critical role. Last month before Christmas, I went up to the school at Lincoln and I had a 1-hour meeting with the head of our SPED department, because you guys may have saw the news that the district, when Matt Wayne was our superintendent, some way they could not account for $20 million for SPED, something like that. And they had to go down to City Hall in front of the supervisors and explain what's going on. And after that meeting, I actually had a meeting with our head of our SPED department, special ed SPED, to talk about where are we with our needs. And I came to find out that we were short 4 paras. So again, active school site council can help by effective communicating and bringing it back to the school site council about what's going on. Because again, if you don't ask, they don't say anything if you don't ask. Okay, the very last bullet, it says principal advisor leadership, and that is correct. Especially with a school site council, it is the principal's school. The principal does sign off on the budget along with the chair, the leadership of the school site council, but the principal provides the budget. Provides the leadership. But in our case at Lincoln, since I'm co-chair, I run the meeting. Okay, at today's meeting, we had a meeting today, by the way, at 4 o'clock, and she sat right to my right side. I ran the meeting, and a couple of times she said that she wanted to speak on a couple of things. She wrote me a little note and passed it over to me. But she's a group player. She doesn't feel like she needs to control everything, and she doesn't feel threatened. She understands everybody wants this school to work. And another fun fact: our principal was named Principal of the Year last year, so she's good to go. Next slide. Any questions? Okay. What is the SPSA, Single Plan for Student Achievement, or School Plan for Student Achievement? It's a plan that delineates the actions to raise the academic performance of all students, particularly those of low income or underserved. In the case, schools will have, foster kids or homeless kids or special ed kids. Okay, and so it's very important. Again, like I said 10 minutes ago, the budget goes in back to 555 Franklin, and attached to that budget is this report, because they see how the money's going to spend, but they want to know the details. How is this money going to enhance and improve the academic income of our focal groups, Latinx kids, African American kids, Caucasian kids, and Asian kids? Okay, any questions there? Okay, next slide. Okay, School Site Council developed a plan by analyzing school achievement data. Michael Kress, who is one of our assistant principals, our second School Site Council meeting this year was last year. It was before Christmas. He broke down every single kid in our school by grade, by race, and by academic achievement. So we could see every kid. He redacted the names, of course. So we don't need to know who the kids' names are. But we did see the gender, so we knew if they were male or female, what grade, how many, and what classes they took. So we were able to analyze which kids were not taking AP courses. And this is high school, so that's where you get your AP advanced placement courses. Dual enrollment. What was the? We had one sheet that talked about absenteeism. We have a high absenteeism for African American kids compared to other focal groups. We talked about that. Identifying goals, establishing timelines, proposing funding expenditure. So this is, a real serious job when it's done right. Also, advisory committees provided advice to the School Site Council. So you reach out to the other heads. At a high school, you have a head of SPED, you have a head of the math department, you have a head of the English department. So a lot of things I'm thinking about wouldn't touch Longfellow as an example. So I just ask for your forgiveness on that. A leadership team provides professional expertise to the School Site Council. The leadership team are again, heads of the different departments that meet once a week at a high school level. And then we can sit in on those meetings as well. Any questions? Okay, next slide, please.
Yes, I have a quick question. What is AP?
AP is advanced placement. Advanced placement, that's exactly what it means. And it's high school level courses that are college level courses. So when you take an AP, you can take, as an example, biology, or you can take AP biology. Last year, my granddaughter took AP biology, which means she took a college level course of biology. And when you take an advanced placement, which is a fancy way of saying college level, you can also take a test that's issued by the College Board. And if you get a 3, 4, or 5, you've passed the test. And when you go to college, they give you credit for that class. So kids who pile up on a lot of AP classes and actually enter their freshman year, halfway finished, going in the front door the first day, because they've taken AP level classes and passed the test.
Understand.
And also colleges like to see the rigor of a kid, what they're taking. You went to Lincoln High or Lowell High, you didn't take any APs. What are you? So I mean, we go to school, these type of schools, and you apply for college. They look at the rigor of the course. So again, to answer your question, I know I'm being long-winded. AP means advanced placement, and when your kids take AP, they're taking college level classes in high school. It's not dual enrollment. Dual enrollment's different. That's when you take a high school, while you're in high school, you take a college course at City College. That's dual enrollment. AP is taught by the teacher.
It's just an advanced version of the math or either biology or any other.
Exactly. AP
Understand.
calculus, AP psychology.
Understand.
You're exactly right. And you want to encourage your kids to take them Usually you don't take them in ninth grade. You take them at the beginning to 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade.
Okay, understand. We have a long time to go. My kids is a first grader.
There you go. You have plenty of time for them to be ready. Okay. Any other questions about that? Great question though. A lot of people don't know until they get to high school. So now you know. Okay. Cycles of continuous improvement. Okay. This is start with go around from left to right at the top left-hand corner. Conduct comprehensive needs assessment, including data analysis of assessment evaluation, develop measurable objectives, identifying strategies and actions to the goals. We just did that 3 weeks ago with what we call D and it's D and W or something. We have a special program to identify kids beginning Christmas or after Christmas that came into the ninth grade that are not performing well. Okay, and that's a measurable objective, and we identify those kids. Well, I don't. I mean, but the school has a system because we know what grades they get, and we identify all the kids in the ninth grade as of Christmas for getting D's, F's, in one or two courses to find out what's going on and to help them. That's another measurable goal because we don't want to go through ninth grade and just barely get there and go into 10th grade where they have to now start performing, especially at Lincoln. Okay, continuing, develop the budget based upon priorities, expenditures that support the strategies. Next, I'm just going around. Identify expenditures in the budget to ensure alignment with the strategy. I'm going to stop right there. Last year, when we got our budget, the budget comes in not with like one big number. It's a big number at the top, and it's a line item breaking down where the money came from and where it's supposed to be targeted. In other words, so much money is for janitor as an example, paras, parent liaison. Oh, I use parent liaison as an example. 4 years ago, when my granddaughter started at Lincoln, we had 4 parent liaisons, one for African-American kids, no, 3. One for African-American kids, one for Asian kids, and one parent liaison for Latinx kids. Last year, we didn't have the budget. We could only keep one parent liaison at Lincoln, and we kept the Asian parent liaison, and we let go of the African-American liaison and the Latinx liaison. And here's the reason. One, there's only 105 Black kids at Lincoln. We have 2,000 kids, so it did make sense to have a parent liaison when we didn't have the budget, right? Latinx kids, we have a little bit more. I don't know what the number is, 210, something like that. Not a large number, but 65 to 70% of our kids at Lincoln are Asian kids, and a lot of their parents don't speak English. So it made sense in our budget to line out the other liaison and keep the Asian parent liaison. Made sense. That's an example of we identify expenditures in the budget and ensure alignment and strategies, of what you need to do. We have a full-time nurse. In some elementary schools, the nurse goes between 2 schools, depending on the proximity of the 2 schools. They actually break out because you don't have a lot of kids either. As an example, at MLK, no, I'm sorry, I know for a fact that Malcolm X, there's only 115 kids. And the closest school to Malcolm X is Carver, and it has like 130 kids. So, you don't need a nurse at 2 nurses at two schools. You can share a nurse. At Lincoln, you got 2,000 kids. You need a nurse there every day. That's an example. One more quick example. Last year, the state of California sued that company that created the smoking thing. The kids, Viper, they puff on it looks like a toy. What do you call it?
Vaping.
The company's vaping. Yeah, right. There's a company that made the vaping things, which was JUUL, Juul. That was the company. And of course, they targeted kids. And the state of California sued that company on behalf of the school district because the kids inside the schools were vaping, taking this product, and they won $23 billion. We got San Francisco Unified School District got 20 million. And of the 20 million, Lincoln got 584,000. Lowell got 785. I don't know what the others got. The only reason I know Lowell got because a friend of mine is on Lowell's school site council, and he shared that with me. But when we saw our budget, we saw JUUL, and right next to it, $584,000, which means that our share was put inside that number, and we could use it for whatever the hell we wanted to use it for. Again, identifying expenditures, right? Okay. Any questions? Just want to stop. Okay. Monitor the implementation, and that's the hard part. Because the days come and go. Before you know it, boom! It's February 1st. The school's almost over. During the school site council during its meetings should be calling out and holding accountable the principal and at a high school level, those individuals who are head of the departments, the math department, the science department, what have you. What's going on? Are we implementing our single plan for student achievement? And of course, we can always look at the data and find out what the hell's going on. Okay, and if no questions, next slide. Okay, implementing the SSPA, visions, values, goals. The principal oversees the plan. School site council anchors the plan in the district goals and guardrails to ensure alignment. One thing, if you attend school board meetings or you read about school board meetings, one of the things that they have focused in the last 3 years, which I'm glad to hear, is focusing on goals and guardrails, which is increasing student outcome. And that's been a problem with our school district. We've lost a lot of parents after COVID, even before COVID, because they have chosen private school and charter school to staying in the district. And one of the things that the Board of Education have done is to zero in on goals and guardrails of student outcome to make a better product. Because I don't care what it is. If the product is not giving you as a parent what you want for your kid, you're going to go elsewhere. And that has happened to the point where we almost closed a lot of schools because, as we all know, Matt Wayne basically got drummed out of the 555 Franklin because he wanted to close 11 schools. But it's necessary. They're going to revisit that again. I won't bore you with that, but a year from now, we'll be talking about that again because there's too many schools without enough kids in them. Okay, third bullet point, the school site council monitors the plan for timely implementation and effectiveness. If there's no question, I don't need to zero in on that. That's pretty much says for itself. Next slide. Okay, so here's your timeline. August, September, the calendar meetings, you hold elections. We do that in August only because we've been blessed having the same people. People term out, people term in, and we have a real active participant staff and parent and community leaders. So every September we actually choose our officers. Okay, this September we did. We don't do it in August because everybody's trying to find their way around the building in August. School starts August 16th. You got 2 weeks, so we don't bother with it. So our first meeting at Lincoln's is September. Hold elections, and then we hold annual Title I parent meeting. We didn't do that. The third bullet wasn't a standalone meeting. We just invite all the parents to the first meeting. Okay, October. Distribute the PEP homeschool compact, establish English language, update programs and budgets, December monitor programs, services, and data review. Okay. I'm just trying to, in my head, as I'm reading this, that we do all this. It kind of blends in. Okay, now we're into the new year. Okay, we're in this January and February. We scheduled community listing and school site council meetings to discuss needs, priorities, bilingual, disadvantaged students. Matter of fact, today I brought up in our school site council meeting how many kids do we have that are homeless, foster kids, SPED kids, kids with IEPs, 504s, and that thing, because those are the kids that usually are left out. All the thing is on sports and high visibility things, but when it comes to those kids, they tend to just be an afterthought. And I brought that up in our meeting today to focus on the disadvantaged kids. And the principal gave some great answers, and she wasn't shy or embarrassed about the fact that we have kids who are foster kids, homeless kids at Lincoln. You wouldn't think of it, but we do. And we're a public school. We have to take that's the advantage, or the thing with private schools. Private schools can vet who they want in. So you don't have the social sea of social things you have with a big city or a big school that's public. You have to take everybody. Okay, so that means your school site council is just as important because you're speaking on behalf of parents who are, single parent with 4 kids and working 2 jobs. They're never going to go to a school site council. So you're their voice. So it's a very important role. Okay, review our funds. Okay, so March and April host the school site council planning. Now, March 8th, mark your calendar, March 8th is the district's school site council day. It's on Zoom, so you don't have to go anywhere, but every school will be set up to zoom in on the district's presentation of the budget and planning and whatever Maria Sue wants to say. So I'm at Lincoln, you're at APG and Eddie, you're at Longfellow, you're at wherever. Okay, you get it? And that date is March 8th, so mark your calendar. And it hosts the second school site summit. The first one was in October, the second one is in March. Okay, and then we approve the plan and the budgets. If you notice that one right under March and April, you see where it says approve the school plan for student achievement and the budget. There's 2 different things. You just don't approve the budget. You got to dice and slice the budget and align the numbers and the money with how you're going to use that money for a successful student body. It makes plenty of sense when you really look at it. Okay. And is there anything I can say about the budget? There's certain restrictions, but there's certain things you can say yay or nay to, and you vote. Before our principal signs off on it, and I also sign because I'm co-chair. Before that last budget is signed off and sent back to Maria Sue, and they receive it, we take a vote. Every school site council votes and says, is this the budget we want? And the majority votes win. So that's why I say it's a very important role, and you can influence how the money is spent. There's no questions. Next slide. Or comments. Okay. Okay, meeting procedures, Green Act requirement, Robert's Rule of Order, bylaws, evidence of compliance. Okay. I'm not sure what the Green Act requirement is. I'll just be honest and embarrassed. I really don't know it. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Green Act. Thank you. Must be open to the public, 72 hours. Well, this is the Brown Act. Actually, it should be Brown Act. So, but maybe they call it the Green Act. But the actual rule we follow and the school board follows and all public entities follow is that it must be open to the public. The notice must be posted 72 hours in advance. It's like at a CBOC meeting, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee meeting. They also have to publish their agenda and what's going to be talked about 72 hours in advance. Make public address the council. Public may address. Now, number 3, when we do our meeting, the first thing that we do at Lincoln, we do a roll call in order to establish a quorum. We have enough members to show up in order to have the meeting. Number 2, I go right into public comment. I start public comment for those who are physically there, and then I open the mic for public comment from people who are attending our school site council by remote. Okay, and it's just like the school board meeting. That's what they do down at 555 Franklin when they have the school board meeting. Same process. Number 4, notice must specify the date. Yeah, when the notice is posted, it must specify the date, the time, the place of the meeting, and contain a brief agenda of items to be discussed. The way we do it, we post it and send every member and invited guest the agenda. So I handle that. So I know a lot of people I invite. I invited Mayor Breed one time. She didn't show, but I invited her. And because it's open to the public, I want to know, Lincoln is how you want to do the thing. So when we send out the posting of the meeting, we include this information, and then I know certain people I want to invite to be guest speakers. Okay. Number 5, there must be no action or items not posted. That's right. You can't show up and say, we're going to talk about this. No, you can't, because you didn't tell the world you were going to talk about this. So there's no items that sneaks on after the meeting starts, and materials must be made available to the public. Go back one slide, please, Tina, the slide before this one. Okay.
Rex, I had a question on that comment, if you don't mind.
Of course, go. Yes,
So if it doesn't make the agenda that's been published beforehand, then it cannot be addressed, but
that's
then
right.
can you ask to add it to the next agenda, or how would you?
That's exactly what would happen. Ask that it be added to the next agenda. That's exactly what it would be. Right.
Okay.
So right, if there's something that comes up and it didn't make the 72-hour cut, you cannot talk about it. You can probably mention it as you're closing. You know, we didn't talk about this, but it's going to be on next meeting. That's basically what you can do, but you can't discuss it. You can't take 15 minutes to discuss an item that was not on the agenda. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay, so Robert's Rule of Order, uh, that's like the blue book of how you follow how meetings should be conducted. So someone who's green at it want to know exactly, am I following how a public meeting should be done instead of looking at C-SPAN or TNT or CNN. There is actually a book called the Robert's Rule of Orders, and it talks about the actual compliance of how a meeting should be conducted. School site council meetings are pretty easy because we're all in the same room, we all know each other. We're not in front of the public like the school board. The school board, I mean, they're under the gun. They have to do everything exactly under Robert's Rule of Order, interrupting people. Can I speak? If it's your turn, that's all covered in the Robert's. And if for any nerds want to read it, it's pretty interesting. I read it a long time ago. I haven't read it in, I have to admit, years, but I'm very familiar with the Robert's Rule of Order. Bylaws, we talked about that at the beginning of our Zoom tonight, so I won't go back. Then evidence of compliance. You have to do, it's like a contract. What's one of the things in the contract? You cannot enter into a contract to do something illegal, right? Certain things is you got to be of age. There has to be consent, et cetera, and what you contract to do must be legal. Same thing. Evidence of compliance. So when we do things, that's why you document it, and that's another reason why you must have a secretary. Also PTA, right? Because the secretary records the minutes and then shares those minutes with the school site council, and then posts those minutes for review the next time around. Tina, you run our second district board. You do the same thing, right?
Exactly right. And with some support from the rest of the board members when I'm catch myself moving ahead. That's the point of meeting as a group, right? Like, I think that we continue to make sure that we're all upholding the basic standards, and that we're not, we're including everything we're supposed to do, and we're also, and closing things out as we should in every single part of the meeting, and also sharing the information with everyone to make sure that if we miss something, that we're going to follow up with it and make sure we're in compliance constantly.
That's right. Okay, thank you, Tina. Next slide. Okay, we talked about next slide. Okay, agreements, rules of order, agreements on how to conduct business, Robert Rules of Order, codes of ethics, agreements on how the councils behave. Council should periodically review how it is functioning. Okay, pretty much what you expect. That's rules of order. Okay, it's not like in what's that country? Is it North Korea, where they actually fight each other on the I've seen where they just get mad at each other. None of that. That's it's civil, and you can raise your voice, but you still have to do it in turn. I remember another fun thing. I remember, still ticks me off when I think about it. I was reading some information. I was chair of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, and I was wanting to introduce something for a vote, and I was reading exactly what I was introducing. I was interrupted by one of the members who didn't like what I was reading. And it was so disrespectful. I didn't know what to say. And then, of course, I just naturally snapped back and I said, don't interrupt me. And I just caught myself. I said, oh my goodness. Well, she interrupted me. So who was at fault? She was, because if she wants to speak, she waits for me, rules of order. And she was out of turn. So I just thought, every time I think about it, I get mad, because she was a friend of the person in the bond program, and we were talking about ways to to spend the money correctly and give more oversight. And she was a friend. She was an insider. Anyway, all right. So next slide. Okay, your school site council, CESPA, and budget is a journey. Okay, that's the roadmap to the goal. That's right. That is the document. In ours, I think ours is about 35 pages. I mean, it's a document. You go through everything about what's going on in that school with the goal of improving the school's kids academically. You got the budgets, the gas, the money. That's right. You can't do anything without money. Money is like air. You need it. And then the school site council navigates Buddy in the passenger seat. So that's you and I, school site council members. We're sitting in the passenger seat, and the principal, I guess that's the principal, the steering wheel. But we're going down the road, and that's I like this to make it simple. And the budget is just the money. The 85% of the money to a school site, to a school district, comes from California, Sacramento, and then that district, in the case our district, San Francisco Unified District, breaks apart whatever that is. By the way, you know what our budget is? It's $1.2 billion. That's how much it takes to run our 100 plus schools. Our budget at 555 Franklin is 1.2 billion, and they split that up and do whatever they do. And Lincoln gets a small piece, AP and Ginny gets a small piece, comparatively speaking, of course. Longfellow gets a small piece, but enough hopefully to make sure that we are fully staffed. And when the school opens the next year, because this year we're looking at the budget for next year. When the doors open next August, we're fully staffed and there's no vacancies. That's what we always shoot for. Do we have enough money in this budget to make sure we have core teachers, and every classroom has a teacher, AP, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And then around the ancillaries, we may have to do some trimming. Do we trim, certain people? Okay, next slide. Okay, why are you so important? Simply put, we cannot move forward without you. If you do not attend a school site council, there'll be no quorum. Without a quorum, you cannot, meeting doesn't take place. Same thing as a school board. The first thing they do a roll call, and there's 7 people. They have to have 5 out of 7 show up, and boom, they can go. If not, they can't go on. Without a CESPA, the school cannot spend their funds. And if a school cannot spend their funds, the students will miss out. Bullet number 4, without the school plan for student success, student achievement, that's why that plan is so important, because we're writing a book, if you will. Maybe that's a bad example, but we're writing that document and we're going through and we're agreeing that we're going to spend the money on these goals. So when we send in, so what leaves Lincoln and goes down to 555 Franklin, again, is the budget and the CESPA. Okay, next slide, if there's no questions. Okay, now how can PTSAs be involved? PTSA members can self-nominate to be part of the parent or staff group selected on the school site council. PTSA or PTA board officer can apply and be part of this parent group, elect to sit on the board. Now, last year I had 2 hats. At Lincoln, I was the president of the PTSA at Lincoln, and I was chair of PTSA at Lincoln. So I wore 2 hats. So I'm a testimony that you can do this. This is especially important to participate in the meetings and share funding info with the board officers and membership when appropriate. PTSA board officers may check with their principal, who is on both school site council and PTSA. At Lincoln tonight, we had 2 meetings today. At 4 o'clock, we had our school site council meeting. Our principal sat in on it, of course. And at 6:30 tonight, this evening, we had our PTSA meeting. And our principal sat in on that, our relevant updates. And so sometimes there's information that's shared between both the PTSA and the school site council. My pet peeve is that we don't have enough parents who are on the PTSA also and participate on the school site council. It doesn't mean you have to be a board member, if you don't have the time to have take on that responsibility, but you certainly should at least sit in on school site council meetings. They're only once a month and they're short, usually an hour and a half, or a PTSA meeting can go 2 hours easily. Okay, at the very last entry there at the bottom, PTSA members and officers can attend the twice a year summit, which is again October, or this year was in October, and it's always in March. So I encourage us all to at least do that if you're not on your school site council. Next slide. Okay, we'll close with this. In 2022, Proposition G was passed. Proposition G was a measure that was drafted by Hillary Ronan and Melga Melia Mayer, yes. And those two got together and drafted legislation to get City Hall to cough up $65 million over time. And it went, of course, you just can't say we're going to do this. The citizens of San Francisco have to vote for it. So that measure went on the ballot in 2022 called Prop G, and it was passed. And it rolled out last year. So 1 year ago in 2024, right after Christmas 2024 last year, $11 million rolled out of City Hall. I'm just trying to give you a visual. Rolled out of City Hall and made available for every school site that's a public school, not charter schools or private schools, but just public schools to apply. Lincoln, we applied for $350,000 readiness grant and we got it. Some schools applied for an implementation grant of $300,000 and they got it. A lot of schools applied for what they call the rapid response grants of $50,000 for immediate needs and they got it. However, only 49 schools applied. We have about 100 plus schools, let's say 100. So we had more than half of the schools last year did not even apply for the $11 million. And what was left is right there, $8.4 million. So $8.4 million was left unallocated. And by the charter, it rolled into a special reserve account at City Hall. At that time, Mayor Breed was still mayor, and she took control of that and said that she was going to determine how to roll that out in 2025. So Daniel Lurie beat her in the election, right? And he became mayor, and he released it on December 12th because he was voted on November 5th. So the December 12th, he released the $8.4 million, and it went live on December 12th. And every school can apply for what is called a rapid response, RR, to provide crisis support, immediate needs, if you will. Okay. And Lincoln, we can apply for $100,000 because we already got a readiness grant. So schools that got a readiness grant and implementation grants last year can apply for $100,000 right now, provided they use it up now. You have to get it now and use it by this June 30th. Schools who didn't get a dime last year of anything can apply up to $150,000 of this $8.4 million. Okay, eligibility, all school sites. Charter schools can get this money who are approved under the district and are eligible to apply. That's not true for the readiness grant or the implementation grant. But this money, charter schools can apply for it. Okay, each school site council must discuss and approve the request. So tonight at 4 o'clock, that was our main number one agenda topic at Lincoln, was this money. And that was the number one. After roll call and public comment, we dived right into this discussion. Are we going to apply for $100,000 and what are we going to use it for? And we had 3 presenters. We had the person who runs our wellness center make a presentation of what she could use the money for. And we had one of our counselors make a presentation, and another person, I forget who it was. At any rate, I went around to them. I said, look, you guys can apply for this $100,000. It's sitting there. You don't have to beg for it. It's right there. Just give me, prepare a slideshow, make a presentation at 4 o'clock, 4:15 on Wednesday the 22nd, and make your case. And then the school site council will back you in applying for this money. Okay, if there's no questions, so there should be, go to the next slide.
I have a question, Rex.
Yes, go for it.
So last year, in December 2024, our principal over the principal meeting, we have it every other Monday. So she said that we received a grant, $10,000 for a soccer field that we requested, and we want to build a soccer field on our lower yard. And we were granted $10,000, but that's not the amount that we need for soccer field. The full amount is at $26,500. And so since we have a $10,000, we need to raise $16,500 more to be able to build a soccer field, and we need to use this grant before the end of the March. So I was wondering if we can apply for these funds as well to receive the rest of the money, so we can build. Or I just not sure if it belongs to the same fund.
Yeah, unfortunately, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. However, the soccer field is usually covered by the bond money. There's a separate part of the district which has the bond money.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, Lincoln, we have the same situation of a redo of our soccer field. And we got $4.5 million, not only for the soccer field, but for the soccer field, a roof on one of the buildings, heating system, what have you. And so that appeal, what you need is to go to the bond department, the facilities department, and tell them that you need $26,000 more, or whatever that number is, to finish the soccer field.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't get it from this money.
Okay, understand. So it's the principal who has she has to apply for that. Yes, am I right?
The principal will tell the facilities department that they need to take a look at the soccer field and give them money. It's $790 million in bond funds. They are flush with money, so there's no excuse that they can't fund it, because it's $790 million. But the process is that the principal or whoever, do you guys have an assistant principal or not? Just a principal?
Yeah, we do, but our principal and our assistant principal, they are new this year. So so our assistant principal, she used to be a principal in a different school. I think it's San Francisco, some other school, I don't know. And this year she is assistant principal at Nauer, and our principal, she's a new as a principal itself. It's a new position for her.
Okay.
So everything is new for her. And I was
so she may not know the process then. So
she might not know. Yes.
Yeah. So what she needs to do, what has to be done is that the principal, who is the head of the school, has to communicate that need to the facilities department. Okay. And the facilities department will have somebody come out, and they will look at it, and they will confirm how much money is necessary to fix it. And then they have the money. And then it's just a matter of getting in the queue of when they can get out there to do it. In the case of Lincoln, we had a situation where we needed our door secured, and we called down there. Our assistant principal did it, and said, you guys need to come out and look at our door. We want one of those phones where you can open the door remotely from the inside, where there's nobody can walk in. And they came out and they put it in the queue, and over the summer they put it in. Same thing with you guys. So it's a work order. It's called a work order, but someone in the principal just needs to communicate to the facilities department, okay, and get the ball rolling. And Tina can give you my contact information, and I can send you the people to contact.
And that's great. That will be really nice. There's just the reason it might not work this time, because we have to use the grant that we received by the end of the March. If we're getting into the queue to apply for, we don't have a soccer field at all. We just have a lower yard, and we just want to build with the grass, the actual soccer field. So
well, let me ask a question about the money you're speaking of. Did you've already got that money, the grant you're speaking of?
Yes, we got the $10,000, but
okay,
they need to be used.
But where did that come from?
I cannot answer the question because I just don't remember, or
that's
not.
The first thing we need to find out is where that grant came from. Is it a one-time grant, or did that come from the facilities department?
I'm not sure. Yeah, no, I understand. I just don't know the differences between this, because I'm new as a president this year, and I didn't know all these facilities, as you mentioned. So I just knew that we received a grant, and we need to use it by the end of the March or beginning of the April. Otherwise, the grant will be withdrawn from us.
Yeah.
So in the case that you mentioned that we need to apply for the facilities, if I understand, it's not going to be that quick, so we won't be able even.
Well, Java, why don't you give us an email, drop an email to us? I think you have my info too, and then we can actually get in touch with your principal and find out and share more because that'll probably be the quickest way to do it. And I also know folks of facilities where we can kind of escalate it to the top if there's clear information from the grant, and there's
Mhm.
contact information there. So, but I did want to get back to finishing the actual
Yeah,
presentation.
we'll follow up on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
for you.
sure. Thank you so much. Yes, I will. Tomorrow I will ask our principal of us all this information. I can contact with you and ask for the details if you will, don't mind.
That sounds great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate.
Okay. All right, so the slide was, there was like 2 or 3 slides on the 8.4 million.
Sorry, Rex, 1 second.
And we're wrapping up.
Thanks for the extra time you're giving, Rex. This is really, really helpful.
Okay, this slide is important because right there toward the, the next, go one, the next one after this one.
Do you?
Yeah, right there. Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. You see where it says number 2? Okay, so it says 100,000. So that's for schools that got grants last year. Number 1 is for schools who didn't get anything. They can apply up to 150,000. Okay. So then right below that in bold, it says submission process and timeline. That's the application form right there. So the application is live, and it's just a matter of the school site council determining the need up to 100,000 or 150, whatever the case may be, to apply for this money. The money is available. It must be used by June 31st. The contact information, Chris, he is the person who oversees this. He works at 555 Franklin on the 3rd floor, the same floor as Maria Sue. I know him personally, and he's the person to make the contact to if you have any questions, but the application form is right there. Okay, next slide.
We also put the application link in the chat, and I'll share the slides again so folks can go back to this.
Okay, so this is just
that's just what the form looks like, the beginning of the form, and it gives very detailed information about ideas and examples.
yeah,
If
exactly.
If you go to the application, it gives you even more info, and then it's actually a Google form you fill out. The application is the form. And then you get to the bottom and it says, do you have any questions? And I'll give you Chris's info once again. So after you submit it, I highly recommend that you follow up with Chris anyway, to just be like, oh, I hope you received our school's application. And then basically follow up with them just to make sure they've received it. And that way you have a direct line to asking any questions if anything else comes up.
And take a snapshot. Go back to that. Stay right there. You can just take a snapshot of that, of those bullet points, because those are the things that they're going to be the litmus test of your app. When you send in the app, they're going to hopefully that you're asking for things that follow these examples of what they want this money to be used for. Right? You see what it says, the school expecting an increase in violence as an example, supplies, supplemental curriculum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what they're going to basically, oh, there you go. Thank you, Tina. There you go. And these are the things that they're going to be looking at. And again, it doesn't have to be, exactly that, but it's going to be within the framework, the conversation, if you will, of your app requests is going to be touching on these things. And that's how it's going to be, say yay or nay.
And it's a rolling basis right now, right? We don't have a final deadline shared.
No, we don't. But when you do get the money, it must be spent by June 31st.
So it's beneficial for folks to work with the school site councils. If you're not part of a school,
it goes through the school site council, right? The school site council is in charge of making this happen.
Or here we go. Here's the dates. The final date for any budget modification of the submissions that you have is April 30th. And then the awards have to be expensed by May
30th. Okay, and may continue to June 30th. There you go.
And money will not carry over. That's important.
That's right. That came up in our meeting today. They said if we don't spend it, can we carry it over? And the answer, you can see right there. No. Okay.
Yeah. So if you all the links on this form are really helpful. They're very detailed and clear. I think the main thing is, Rex, that we basically want folks to share this with their school site council if they haven't gotten it. The principal got it and is overwhelmed, and it got
Right.
in their email box, which I can't imagine a principal like being able to respond to or follow up directly with the thousands of emails. But it's really good for PTA and PTSA members or officers to bring this to their attention, bring it again, and definitely bring it to the school site council chairperson and say, is this something you can work on and write this and complete this application within the next month or two? Like, definitely I would suggest, February and March are good months to get the applications in. And like you were saying with the budgeting timeline, people are the summit is coming up on March 8th. So it's good to get these applications in, and then before everyone sees their preliminary budget or their final budgets, it is very good timing right now to get on top of this application if that's something a site is able to do.
Okay. Now there will be two other numbers, and let's just close on this. It's getting kind of late. I need to wrap it up myself. Just keep in mind that there's 3 doors. One door we're talking about now is the 8.4 unallocated money. We know how much each school can get, 100,000 or 150, depending. We know the deadlines, etc. The other door is the monies that will come from the budget from 555 Franklin for next year's operating money to run the school. That's separate from this. This money is not commingled, okay, sponged together with the operating budget. It's a separate money. It comes from City Hall. The money from 555 Franklin comes from Sacramento. So keep those 2 in mind, because they're separate monies. You apply for this money, you get the other money, if you will. Yeah. So that's right. This is the timeline for the Sacramento money, if I can just call it like that, the separated, the state money, if you will. The unallocated $8.4 million and the next round of student success funds, that's city money from City Hall. Okay. And this year it'll be $25 million. Last year was 11 million. This year is it will be 25 million. Last year, 8.4 million wasn't used. That's why we spent some time on the 8.4 million. But they're going to open that door again for this year's implementation grants and readiness grants of schools that didn't get that money, which is up to $350,000 per school, and $25 million will be made available. Okay, any questions? All right. And I think we're done. Okay.
Thank you so much, Rex and Tina, for all the information that you gave us.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for attending. We appreciate it. Yeah, just get in touch with Tina on the follow through, and we will follow through on that for you. With the soccer field, that's monies. Forget the grant, the $10,000 grant. I mean, I don't know where that came from, but the district has $790 million of bond money for facilities, including football fields, bleachers, roofs, windows, Columbine locks, PA systems. All that money is a separate bucket of money that has nothing to do with Sacramento. Matter of fact,